Jeff Hull was the father of Joseph Hull. Jeff was a plumber in Riverside, California. He was also the regional leader of the National Socialist Movement, Nazi Party. Jeff had been bragging how he had been teaching his eldest son Joseph to use night vision goggles and shoot a gun. He did learn well he did, but no one would ever think he would use these skills against his own father. Joseph was 10 years old at the time. His father was fast asleep on the couch. When Joseph took a .357 revolver from the shelf in the closet, he slowly pulled back the hammer, aimed the gun at his father's ear, and pulled the trigger, shooting his father in the head and killing him on May 1, 2011. Joseph had told police that the night before his father threatened to remove all the smoke detectors in the house and burn it down with everyone sleeping inside. Joseph was growing tired of his dad threatening them and hitting him and his mother, and was going to do something about it that day. Jeff had also been violent with Joseph's 26-year-old stepmother. Sometimes he would kick Joseph in the back. He punished the children daily in various ways. Joseph was arrested and taken to juvenile hall, while the other 4 children were taken in protective custody. The stepmother was also taken in and charged with criminal storage of firearms and child neglect. Joseph's mother, Joanne Patterson, and Joseph's grandmother were given temporary custody of the 4 other children. Joseph stated that his motivation for the killing was the episode of Criminal Minds, where he saw a child shot his abusive father and did not face any consequence for it. He also believed his father would not die and recover. In 2013, Joseph was found guilty of murder. He was sentenced to juvenile detention until the age of 23. Wick was on June 19th of 2023. Next is Joseph McVeigh, kinda a smiler situation. On January 2nd, 2011, a call came into the 911 call center. It was a small child's voice saying, "I just shot my mom." Around p.m., near Big Prairie, Ohio, a woman and her 10-year-old son are arguing, with a deadly outcome. When the police arrived inside the house, on the living room floor laid 46-year-old Deborah McVeigh. Face down with a single gunshot to her head, she was already dead. What happened and why? Joseph, her youngest child, confessed, and he was arrested and charged with murder of his mother. His sister Shauna, who was 15 at the time, witnessed the whole horrible scene. All of this over some firewood his mother wanted him to bring into the house, but he didn't want to. Just weeks before the incident, his mother argued with her ex-husband about the guns in the house. At least 6 of them, which the ex-husband had given to the 10-year-old boy. Why does a 10-year-old need so many guns? They thought that is just an accident or murder waiting to happen, and it did. Some would wonder, was this really about bringing in firewood, or was it something deeper? Many of the details of the case, including other theories of the motive, were not released to the public. According to interviews with the family members, which included his sister and father, as well as school officials, it was said that he was the victim of abuse between and by both of his parents. His mother was said to also emotionally abuse him. Joseph also showed signs of anger and aggression. Joseph was described as nice and polite, but experienced episodes of anger, where he would strike out at others. On the evening of the shooting, an argument broke out between him and his mother over bringing in some firewood, apparently set off Joseph, who told his sister that he was tired of fighting with his mother, so he went to his room, grabbed a gun, returned to the living room, and shot his mother. She fell to the floor and was dead. His sister begged him not to kill her. He then walked out of the house, went to the neighbor's house and told them he had just shot his mother and needed to call 911. Joseph has been charged with murder as a juvenile. He pleaded not guilty. He has been staying in the Richmond County Juvenile Detention Facility. In August 2013, an order was set for him to remain at the facility. As far as I can find, he is ordered to remain in the treatment facility until he turns 21. Let's go back in time a little for the next one. Back 1862, when James Arsene was born, he was the youngest person sentenced to death. who subsequently executed for crime by hanging on June 18, 1885. He was hanged in the United States by the United States government at Fort Smith, Arkansas for his alleged role in a robbery and murder committed 13 years earlier when he was 10 years old. James and a man named William Parchmiel noticed a Swedish man named William Feigl. He was making a purchase at a store. The pair followed him for about 2 miles outside of the fort, where one of the two shot the man 6 times, before crushing his skull with a rock. The two then stole the boots off of his dead corpse, and 25 cents, which equals to a little over $6 today. James was arrested and tried for the robbery and murder of the man, but managed to escape and eluded capture until he was apprehended and executed at the age of 23. Both were caught after the case had been cold for 10 years. James and William were both hanged at Fort Smith. James did make a confession stating that he had shot Feigl 6 times, then took rocks and mashed in the man's head before dragging him off the road and robbing him. That one and the next two are kinda short, but let's look at them anyway. In 1892, 10-year-old Anton Wood lived with his parents, Thomas and Maggie Wood, in Newark, New Jersey. A rich man that Anton was guiding shared his whiskey with the boy, who had already had a beer earlier in the day. At some point, Anton decided he wanted the man's gold watch, his chain, and his new rifle. He guided the man to a ravine and shot him in the back with his own gun, which the boy had been carrying for him, killing him instantly. Anton was arrested a short time after. He was arrested and charged with murder. By the time the trial began, he was 11. He was described as a pleasant-faced bright boy with blue eyes and golden hair, with no sense of remorse. Anton was found guilty after 16 hours of deliberation and was sentenced to 25 years of hard labor. At the age of 11, he was considered too dangerous to go to Buena Vista Prison, a reform school for boys. Instead, he was sent to Colorado State Penitentiary in Cannon City, Colorado. This prison was built by the incarcerated prisoners in 1871. The walls were 4 feet thick and 20 feet high. On April 3, 1893, Anton arrived at the prison. He was frisked, derobed, sprayed for bugs, photographed, given an uniform and bedding, and assigned prisoner number 3199. In September of 1905, he was 23 years of age. He was paroled. He changed his name to Charles H. Henry. In 1906, he married a judge's daughter. Together, they moved to Wisconsin, where they lived a good life. He died in 1950 of lung cancer at the age of 68. This last story is a short one, but a little crazy for a child to do this. William York was 10 years old when he committed this dreadful crime. He was a pauper in the poorhouse belonging to the parish of Ake in Suffolk, and was committed on the coroner's inquest to Ipswich Jail for the murder of Susan Mayhew, a girl of 5 years of age, who was William's bedmate. The following is his confession, taken and attested by a justice of the peace, and which was, in part, proven at his trial. These are the words of William about the murder. This is his confession. It is said as follows.
He said that a trifling quarrel happened between us. I struck her with my open hand and made her cry. She said that she was going to the dunghill outside of the house, opposite to the door. I followed her with a meat hook in my hand with the intent to kill her. But before I came up to her, I set down the hook, and I went into the house for a knife. Then I came out again. I took hold of her left hand and cut her wrist all around and to the bone with the knife. Then I threw her down and cut her to the bone just above the elbow of the same arm. Then I set my foot on her stomach and cut her right arm roundabout and to the bone, both on the wrist and above the elbow. Then I thought she would not die, and therefore I took the hook and cut her left thigh to the bone, and she would not die yet. My next step was to conceal the murder after she finally died. For this purpose, I filled a pail with water at a ditch and washed the blood off her body. buried her in the dunghill together with the blood that was spilt upon the ground, and made the dunghill as smooth as I could. Afterwards, I washed the knife and hook, and carried them into the house, washed the blood off my clothes, hid her clothes in an old chamber, and then came down and ate breakfast.
William was found guilty and sentenced to death, but he was repited from time to time because of his age and was at length pardoned.